In this video, I will show you some examples of conditional formatting in Excel using summarized data in pivot tables. Conditional formatting is a powerful tool to highlight trends and gain insights into the data, and it is especially useful when applied to pivot tables with slicers like shown here. This will dynamically update summarized data based on your criteria. So for example, I can select different values here on the slicer. Not only is the pivot table getting updated, but the conditional formatting is also dynamic. And again, I can select different months and the data will get updated along with the formatting. I can also use different types of thresholds here based on some rules for the conditional formatting. So let's get started on this conditional formatting and I will show you how to do this from scratch. The setup for this video is fairly simple. We have a pivot table here and two slicers that are connected to it. The pivot table is for different types of items as rows, and the sales channel, whether the sale was online or offline, as columns. And then the values are some of the total profits. And then the slicers here allow us to pick a year and month for time period so that the pivot table can be updated. And then the second pivot table here has months as rows and year as columns. And then the values here are again some of the total profits. So I'm assuming that you know how to create a pivot table and attach the slicers to it. But if you would like to know more about that, I have videos that I've already recorded on how to create a pivot table the right way and how to attach a slicer to it. So please be sure to check those out. The first type of conditional formatting that we will cover today are color scales. Color scales allow us to highlight trends in the data using different colors. And they are super easy to use because they're already built in Excel. So for example, suppose that I want to highlight the trend of total profit here for offline sales. So all I have to do is just highlight these cells here, click on conditional formatting, go to color scale, and just pick one of these color scales. So let's just pick this here for now. And here right away, you can see that green color represents significantly high profit versus red color that represents significantly low profit. And then everything else is in between. But you can see that just visualizing the data here using color scale, it makes it super simple to see the trend. So you can identify that household items and office supplies are where you have the most profit. And then fruits and beverages is where the profit is low. So similarly, I can do this for online. So just highlight the cells, conditional formatting, apply a color scale here. And now the nice thing is that using these slicers, I can update the time period and the data will update, and so will the color scale. So for example, suppose I pick 2011 and 2014. So 2011 through 2014, and I can pick, say, the first 6 months. And so you can see that the data is getting updated and the color scale is also getting adjusted based on that. Let's also apply color scale to the grand total column here. So let's highlight the values, conditional formatting, color scales, and this time let's pick something like that. So these are different shades of green based on the magnitude of the total profit. So as you can see, you can apply color scales very quickly and easily to highlight trends in the data. This is especially useful when you have summarized data like that in this pivot table. Let's now remove the color scale formatting from this pivot table. And to do that, I can go to conditional formatting, manage rules. And here from the drop down, let's select this worksheet. This will show all the rules that have been applied on this worksheet. So there are 3 rules that we applied to 3 columns. So let's remove each of these rules. And to do that, I would just highlight the rule and click delete rule. And then just say OK. and this will remove the rules here. So next, let's cover how we can use conditional formatting to highlight values that are, say, below or above their averages. So for example, this column here represents total profit for offline sales of these different items. And I want to highlight the values that are above the average of that total profit. So what I would do is I would highlight this column here, go to conditional formatting, and then go to top bottom rules and click on above average. And I can pick this to be light red fill or green fill. So I can do something like that. And now what is showing me is highlighted values that are above the average profit. And again, this is interactive, so I can select more years here and the data will update. So very useful. Again, I can do the same to this column, and this time let's say I want to highlight the below average values and I want them to be in light red fill. And so here they are, and I can again update for different time periods and the data will automatically update. So the conditional formatting here again is dynamic. Let's now assume that I want to pick the top 2 values in a column. So for example, in the grand total column, I want to highlight the top 2 values or the top 2 total profit values so I can easily identify what items they're associated with. So to do that, I can highlight the column, go to conditional formatting, top bottom rules, and here you'll see that we have the top 10 items option, but we do not have top 2 items, but we can create that rule. So I will click on more rules. Here, just make sure that format only top or bottom ranked values is selected, and then format values that rank in the top 2. And now you have to define a format that you would like to be shown for the top 2 values. So you'll click on format. Here you can format the font. So let's pick the font to be in yellow, and we'll click on fill, and let's make the fill green. And instead of yellow font, let's just do white font here. Say OK. Okay, and now you will see that the top 2 values have been automatically highlighted. These are the top 2 values, and again, this will update as the data changes. So this is, again, all of this is dynamic. Let's now reset the conditional formatting again so we can go over a few of the rules. And again, I will go to conditional formatting, manage rules, and here from the drop down, select this worksheet, and let's remove all of these rules here. All right, the next conditional formatting rule we will use will be to highlight cells that contain value below or above some threshold. So for example, let's say that we want to highlight for offline and online sales total profit values that are below some threshold. So say the threshold is $5 million. So I will select these 2 columns here, go to conditional formatting, then go to new rule. Here select format only cells that contain, and here cell value if it's less than $5 million. So I'll just type 5 million. And the format I want to do is I want the fill to turn red and say OK. And so now it will highlight values that are below that threshold of $5 million. And so again, this will update as the values as you select these different months and years on these slicers. Now let's also highlight with color cells that are above some threshold. So for example, say that the threshold is $15 million. So let's select the 2 columns, go to conditional formatting, new rule, click Format only cells that contain cell value that is greater than and 15 million. And then click Format, and let's pick the fill to be green. And so now it is also highlighting cells that are above the threshold. So it preserves the previous rule and then applies the new rule on top of that. So again, I can select different years and months, and the rule will be updated as well. Let's now say that you want to experiment with different thresholds. Now you don't want to have to recreate these rules every time you change the threshold. So what we can do is we can make the threshold dynamic as well. And to do that, let's first come up with, say, 3 thresholds that we want to use. So let's say the first threshold is $1 million. Second is $5 million. And the third is $10 million. Okay, so now let's first clear these rules here. So go to Conditional Formatting, Manage Rules, this worksheet, and just delete the rules. All right. So now what we will do is, let's type threshold here, and cell K2 will contain a threshold that is selected from these 3 thresholds. Now what we want to do is we want to create a drop down such that we get these 3 options and then we can pick one of them. So to do that, I will select this cell, then go to Data, then go to the Data Tools part of the ribbon here, click on this icon here, and then click Data Validation. Now in Data Validation, we want to allow a list, and the list source is going to be these values here. Okay, so I'll just select them, say OK, and now you will see that there is a drop down showing here. If you click the drop down, you will be able to pick one of these 3 values that you typed here. All right, so let's just pick 1 million for now. Now let's select these 2 columns, then go to Home, Conditional Formatting, New Rule, and under New Rule I will go to Format Only Cells that contain cell value less than, instead of typing a number here, I will just click on this cell, K2. Okay, so it will apply whatever value is contained here. And the format I want to do is, let's just make the fill red. Right, say OK. And so now you can see that it applied the rule based on $1 million threshold. So it's highlighting these 2. So let's select a different value, say 5 million. So now it will update to show just the values that are below 5 million. And similarly, you can do 10 million. And again, all of this is interactive now because you can always change the values here on the slicer. So everything is pretty much dynamic here. I can also use conditional formatting to compare 2 columns with each other and then apply the rules. So let's work on an example like that. So first let's clear out these rules. So I'll go to Conditional Formatting, Manage Rules, this worksheet, and I will clear this rule here. All right. So let's say that I want to highlight total profits for offline sales that are greater than online sales. So for each item, if the offline sale total profit is greater than the total profit for online sales, then those values should get highlighted. So for that, let's first highlight the column for offline sales here. Go to Conditional Format, New Rule. Now here we will pick Use a Formula to determine which cell to format. And here let's type the formula. So the way I'm going to type this is I'm going to type the rule, say for the first item here, which is we want C4 to be greater than D4, and then the rule should apply. So I will type C4 is greater than D4. So if C4 is greater than D4 cell, which is this compared to this, then the format should be that it should be highlighted, say, green. So what it will do is, because I've selected this entire column here, it will apply this rule to each of these cells here. All right, so, and obviously the cell numbers will change as it applies the rule. So say okay. And now you can see that the rules were applied to cells, and these are the cells that are highlighted. So these are the instances where total profit for offline sale is greater than total profit for online sale. So just another example of how easy it is to use formulas to apply rules. The last type of conditional formatting that I would like to cover in this video is going to be on this table. So this pivot table has months as rows and the columns are years. And the values again are total profit. Now suppose I want to look at a particular month. So let's say here I want to look at January. And in the month of January for all these different years, I want to put some kind of an icon next to the value that is greater than a threshold. So say it's 7 million threshold. And a different icon if the value is between 7 million and a second threshold. So that can be maybe 4 million. And anything less than 4 million, I would like a third type of icon. So 3 different icons representing the range of the range where the total profit falls in. So I will select this this row, go to conditional formatting, go to icon sets, and let's go to more rules. Now here we will edit this part of it. All right, so the first thing I would like to do is we're working with hard thresholds, so numbers. We are not working with percentages. So let's select number here and number here. Now I would like to show a green icon, and you can select any icon here, but I'll just pick this green circle when the value is greater than 7 million. A yellow if it's greater than 4 million. So between 4 million and 7 million. And then it will be red if it's below 4 million. Say okay. And so now I have green circles every time the value is above 7 million. Between 4 and 7, it's blue. It's orange, I'm sorry. So you can see it's orange here. And anything less than 4 million is red. So everything that's below $4 million has a red circle next to it. So as you can see that this is another way of easily identifying the trends in the data.